Hello and welcome to Cabernet Chronicles, a podcast where I tell stories that are socially inappropriate to do at parties. Today I have Donny.
Oh, hello.
Oh, hello. Oh, and I'm Aimee Lynn.
Should we redo that?
No.
Okay.
No, we're just gonna... This is just how this podcast goes. We keep our mistakes of being a dumb bitch. Because I forgot my name. But that's fine. I'm Aimee Lynn.
I'm Donny.
And you're Donny. So today we are going to talk about a phenomenon called the third man factor. And this is something that has been in my head for a while because I read the
We can
book.
do it. I'm open.
Not that kind of third man factor. God damn it, babe. Not that kind of third man factor.
Well, that's no fun.
I am talking about the third man factor, and I actually listened to the book from John Geiger called The Third Man Factor, where he talks about many different times of the third man factor. And I'm sure you're asking, what is the third man factor? Because it's not the dirty thing you're thinking of.
Let's see if this visual matches up with what I had in my head.
Right?
Go ahead.
Yes. Jeez. It's absolutely not. It does not. All right. So the third man factor refers to a phenomenon where people who have been through traumatic or life-threatening situations report another person or a voice that guides them through, comforts them, helps them survive. These are some of the stories within that book, but also there's a National Geographic Explorer episode called The Angel Effect, as well as many articles about different instances that this has happened. But the first instance that this was reported is with Sir Ernest Shackleton, who led an expedition to cross the Antarctic. In 1915, the ship Endurance became stuck, not just for a couple days, but for months. They were stuck for almost 2 years.
Oh!
Yes, in the ice.
What the hell were they eating?
Well, they had enough food for a 2-year expedition.
Oh.
For a 2-3 year expedition.
Holy cow.
So then when their food started to go, supply started to go down, Shackleton had a small group. So him and 2 others use a small boat in order to travel the 1,000 miles to a whaling station.
Holy cow.
Now, so they're doing this and they're going and it's hard and they're cold, they're starving. It's the worst ever, I don't know why people go to the Antarctic at all, but hey, that's just me.
Explorers.
I hate being cold, so I'm going to stay away from that kind of stuff. But their horrible journey became worse when the last 26 miles they had to walk on foot.
Jesus.
Yes.
On ice?
On ice, in Antarctic ice. Cold, freezing temperatures, walking on ice. After 36 hours, they made it to the whaling station, and all had reported a presence of a 4th man who kept them encouraging and kept them going. Shackleton said of the last leg of the journey, quote, "During that long, raking march of 36 hours over unnamed mountains and glaciers of South Georgia, it seemed to me often we were 4, not 3.
Weird.
Yeah.
That's
I just him saying unnamed mountains and glaciers, though. I'm like, whoa, yeah, that's true. Those things weren't named yet.
You know what? Should have named it after yourself.
They should have named it after themselves, right?
I don't know how you document
well, that's
that.
Shackleton Peak.
Yeah.
That's Aimee Glacier.
This is the 4th guy mountain.
4th guy mountain, yeah. So it was not only was this immortalized in Shackleton's book that he later wrote. But T.S. Eliot's poem Wasteland is also about this experience, but instead, because it's a poem and it rhymes better, he turned it from fourth man to third man. So that's why it's now called the third man factor.
I was going to say, it sounds like we're off by one here. What's happening?
Yes. So blame T.S. Eliot for that. Well, so after Shackleton wrote his book, tons of people came forward saying that they had experienced the same phenomenon. Many of them were mountain explorers and shipwreck survivors or sailors, and they claimed to have seen or heard another person that helped get them through or either kept them calm so they could escape their situation.
Wow. Sounds like guardian angel type of concept.
Exactly. Actually, that's what a lot of people will also say it is they'll say it's a guardian angel. Oh, my guardian angel was down upon me.
For the record, I'm not religious at all, but I do believe in like the universe and like energy and things like that. So yeah, it's not impossible, but yeah, I'm not.
Well, I'm going to get to the science of it soon.
Oh, okay, good.
Well, the science that we think it is soon.
Well, I was just covering the religious component there. I'm not trying to.
Yes. Oh no,
go
for
to
sure.
Church on Sundays.
Oh no, for sure.
Like, listen to me, I'm a fucking heathen. I want to have threesomes. I'm not going to church. Fuck all this.
God.
Cheers.
God damn it.
What is this show? Who are
What
these guests?
is this, right? Who is this guy? No, this is Donny. He's my life partner, and we're going to be doing this together. So
Apparently with a third man.
no. Well, I mean, that's another like income for us. So instead of dinks, we would be thinks.
Oh,
Because we'd be three.
I was like,
three.
I wasn't trying to sell this.
No, I'm just saying we'd be three adults with income and no kids, right?
Yeah,
Like
boy,
dinks.
that's just not fair.
Oh, it'd be triple income instead of dinks.
Triple income, no.
Yeah, we'd be
yeah,
tinks. Yeah,
No kids,
triple
bullshit.
income, no kids.
Yeah. Boy.
Oh my God.
Okay, we're 7 minutes in here.
All
Let's
right.
see,
So, another famous example of the third man factor is from Frank Smythe, who was the first man to almost summit Mount Everest. So another place that I'm absolutely cool with never, ever, ever going. Like, I don't understand the appeal of being super cold and super up high, and
There's tons of bodies up there, aren't there?
there's loads of bodies up there, and I'll tell you all about them in a different episode. But
Aha.
yes, there are tons of bodies up there. So Frank Smythe in 1933 was trying to summit Mount Everest, be the first man to summit Mount Everest. He missed the summit by 1,000 feet. So that's a bummer. Like, you're almost there, but then...
Keel
But
over.
what happened was that him and his party were caught in a blizzard in what is now known as the death zone. So there's straight up a death zone on Mount Everest.
That's
If something has something called a death zone, I don't think you should go to that place. That's just a PSA from Aimee.
that's like the theory of just remove all the warning labels and let people go for it. Like, that's just it'll kill off the deadwood.
People still go for it, and it's causing a lot of problems, actually. But
The bodies are stacking up.
yeah, they are. They're actually having a really hard time. Many of them they use certain bodies for like the markers, so they know how
Oh my
far
God.
they are. Yeah,
Like,
yeah, it's super fucked up.
you know, if you've gotten to this skull.
Yeah, no, it's like that. That's how it is. They'll be like the guy in this color of snowsuit and stuff. Yeah, it's really crazy.
Wow.
Anyways, his party, they decided to go back, and they were like, we're going back. He decided to keep on going forward, keep on trekking. And he later recounted in his diary that there was someone with him the whole time. Even though he was alone and he knew he was alone, he never felt lonely because someone was always there with him.
Yeah, there's
to
a
the
line
point,
of souls up the fucking mountain.
Well, at that point, there wasn't yet.
What? Oh,
Because
really?
it was 1933.
Oh.
And no one had ever summited Mount Everest yet. He was the first that was trying.
Oh, no shit. Wow.
But he didn't make it. But what happened is, so he's in his tent, curled up cold. He believes that there's a man there so much that he offers him his mint cake. So he tries to give this fake apparition.
Dude is seeing ghosts.
He's seen a third man. But when he turned around, the man was gone.
Sure.
But he said that the man the entire time encouraged him and helped him. And he was the guy who then encouraged him to go back and turn back around and to leave, to not.
And did he do it?
And he did. So he survived because
okay.
he listened and he went back down the mountain. Yes. So.
Well, even if you don't believe in ghosts, at least the figment of your imagination is enough of a guide to stop you from killing yourself.
Yes. Again, it's kind of like it's a different way of my murder sense where I say, always listen to that intuition inside you, that little thing inside your head that tells you don't do the thing. Well, this is like the other spectrum of that, where it's like, listen to this guy or person or whatever it is that you end up seeing or hearing to get out of the situation that you're in. Some scientists theorize that it is a chemical response to extreme stress and that whiteout conditions or being at sea can actually cause sensory deprivation and then make it so then you hallucinate. Kind of like if you're in the Sahara Desert and then you start seeing mirages. See, it's the same kind of thing.
You don't got to do LSD. Just land yourself in the middle of nowhere and starve yourself to death.
Get
It'll
lost,
kick in.
Just get lost on sea or in the middle of the mountains or in the Sahara Desert. Let's do that. No, I'd just rather do drugs and stay inside. That's what I'd rather do.
I don't think I could make it to the Sahara Desert without a gigantic comb. Comb the desert.
I know it's from Spaceballs.
That's my go-to thought for
I know.
the Sahara.
Yeah, we ain't found a damn thing.
We ain't found shit.
We ain't found shit.
That's hilarious.
So some scientists think it's more just that, whereas others believe in the bicameral mind, which is a theory that before we became literate, our brains had two different sections, one that would speak and one that would listen. So it's part of why some think that we have an inner monologue. Although, did you know that some people don't have an inner monologue?
I guess it's like 50-50. There's like 50% of people don't have it and 50% of people do.
Maybe
I'm getting that confused.
I don't know the numbers, but that's insane to me. I have to literally listen to a podcast at night in order to shut my inner thoughts up in order to fucking sleep. And there are some people out here that just have a blank mind. Like, how? What?
Those are the serial killers.
Actually, maybe. I don't know. I don't know that. That's all allegedly. If you don't have an inner monologue, you are only a serial killer if you don't listen to your inner. I don't know what the fuck I'm saying.
I was gonna say, I'm glad you have the inner monologue, because if you
right?
didn't, all this killer stuff might make a little more sense.
Oh.
Sweet baby Jesus.
Yes. Well, like some people will be like, "Oh, that's anxiety or ADHD or whatever," and I'm like, "No. Like, I am never alone, because if I'm in my car and by myself, I'm having conversations with myself. I'll be honest. I am winning arguments that I had 4 years ago. I'm now winning them. So watch out if I've ever had an argument with you. Just know that years later, I'm winning."
I always stop and end up thinking, if I were smarter and quicker and wittier, This would have been a good comment to that conversation a
Oh,
couple
yes.
years ago.
Yes, exactly.
I'll have to try and tuck that into the brain and
But
think faster
again,
next time.
there are some people that just don't have thoughts at all when they're just sitting around.
That's fucking weird. Must be a very peaceful
It
experience.
must be a peaceful experience. We don't know, though. I've never met anyone like that either. Or maybe
Maybe
because
we do,
I
we
never
don't
thought
know.
to ask people if they
Yeah,
had an
yeah.
inner monologue. I'll be
Yeah.
honest. I never thought to ask. I never thought to be like, oh. So maybe all those times like where I've been like, what you thinking of? And exes have been like, nothing. I'm like,
Like, blank slate, huh?
maybe they really were thinking about nothing because they have no inner monologue, which would also explain so much about them.
Killers in the making.
Killers in the making. Some modern psychologists actually try to use this third man factor to help trauma victims by cultivating an inner character or change their inner monologue in order to lend comfort and support instead of like making them feel bad or terrible about themselves.
Right.
So that's a good thing within that. And so other scientists, though, disagree. Surprise. That the third man factor isn't caused by the bicameral brain. It's actually caused by, they theorize that the third man factor is closer to those who have lost limbs and then have phantom limb syndrome.
Ooh, yeah.
So they theorize that the brain waves of both of those, of someone who's lost a limb and someone who has gone through the third man factor, are basically the same, and that with the phantom limb, your body has already mapped out all of the connections with that limb so well that it remembers it. So then you think that something else is happening to your limb, even though it's now no longer there, because those pathways are still there.
As I say, it's almost like muscle memory, right?
Exactly. It's kind of like that.
The nerves know.
And so they think that being under extreme stress, your brain is actually able to project an entire awareness of self into another person or a phantom, just like it happens with the phantom limb. While others believe it's just your inner resources coming out and it's an old survival mechanism deep down in our brain. And then some, as you said earlier, believe it's just a guardian angel.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I don't think I've ever had any sort of like LSD or mushroom thing happen where I get the out of body experience where I think that there would be some sort of other version of me.
Yeah.
Like the body is pretty tremendous.
It's
that's pretty
crazy.
awesome.
It's crazy
coping
what your
mechanisms
body will do.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to tell you two stories that really stuck with me from that book. But then because I read that book, I then was like, oh my God. And I went on tremendous rabbit holes. So you're about to go on those rabbit holes now with me.
Deep.
But some of them is like, so one of them is a more of a graphic, a graphic.
Wait for it.
I know my brain's not working now because that is not the word I meant to put. It's but so one of them is a graphic depiction of 9/11. So warning for that. Whereas another one is not as graphic, but very much if you are claustrophobic or anything like that, this is not a story for you.
I used to have nightmares about being about claustrophobia.
Yeah.
Oh, it's fucking crazy. Like you're in a tight space and you're trying to figure out how to get out of the space.
Yes. Oh yeah. That's one of my worst nightmares. And so these two stories from John Geiger's book, I was just like, oh my God. And it slightly traumatized me / it's been sticking with me a lot that now I'm like, now you have to listen. Now you're going to
suffer with me.
Now it's not really suffering. It's more just like fascinating, but also like terrifying at the same time.
Okay. Well, what do you got?
Yeah. So it is Tuesday morning, September 11th, 2001.
Was that a Tuesday?
It was a Tuesday, yes.
Boy, I remember that stuff vividly. But anyway.
Yeah, no, I do too. And I was actually going to ask you that. Like, Where were you on 9/11?
In the shower.
You were in the shower. Okay.
And the person that I was dating was like, "You need to get out of the shower right now." And I was like, "What?" And they're like, "You need to get out of the shower and come look at the TV." And I was like, "What?" And like, get out of the shower. I was like, oh, "Okay." So I'm shutting the shower off and like getting in, and the images of the like first tower getting hit are all over the news. And I was like, "What the fuck?" Like, because there had been some, like a couple months before, a Cessna, a guy had been prescribed Accutane, and it had like totally done a number on him, and it was in his system, and he had been training to become a pilot, so he's in a little Cessna cruising along, and he flew him and his instructor into the side of a building. And so she's telling me, "Hey, a plane hit a building." And I was like, "A fucking another one? Like, how many Cessnas are going to hit buildings? What the hell's going on?" And then, of course, you see, plane number one going into there. I was like, "Whoa, this is not a Cessna." Holy cow. So, that was interesting. That was, I'm standing there dripping wet watching the TV and, broad daylight. Oh, sorry. Yes, hard.
You started bringing the microphone way away from you.
I got a habit of getting the microphone way away.
Which is fine.
So
that's why I'll just push it back. It's cool.
So.
But what'd you do for like the rest of the day? Did you go to work? What'd you do?
So I was actually working in the municipal building right next to the Columbia Tower, and I was like, "Ooh, I really don't want to go to work because what happens if this is happening all over the place?"
Yeah.
So I was like, maybe I don't want to go in. So I think I did not go in, or I was trying to like message people and try and figure out if we were supposed to go in, but like not a very comfortable day being next to the tallest tower in the area here in Seattle. So
well, that's definitely way different than my day. So
I might be a little bit older.
Yes.
So
this guy's an old ass motherfucker.
Yeah.
Anyways.
I had a job and was an adult at that point.
Yes, you were, and I was not. So I was actually at my mom's house. So at the time, my mom had Mondays off. So she would pick me up from school on Mondays, and then I'd sleep over at her house, and she'd take me to school Tuesday morning. Because I'm from divorced parents. Hello. And I remember my mom woke me up, and my sister and her girlfriend lived at my mom's house at the time too, and they were just all like, well, number one, I would snooze my mom, and she'd be like, "Wake up," and I'd be like, "All right," and then I just go back to bed. But she was like something in her voice when she was like, "Wake up right now." I was like, "Oh God, I don't know what's happening." So I go out in the living room, and my sister and her girlfriend are watching the TV, and literally that's when the second one came in and hit the second tower.
Yikes.
And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then I was taken to school. And I sat at school.
They took you to school. Wow.
Yeah, my mom still took me to school. Well, she had to work on Tuesday. So she's like, "You're going to school." So I am in 7th grade. I'm 12 years old. And you know what we did all day at school? We just watched the footage and the
over
TV
and over again
of it in every single period. Over and over again. Yes.
God.
Over and over again. That's all we did all day. And I remember one of my teachers straight up said, I really want you guys to remember what you felt yesterday before you went to sleep, because nothing's going to ever be the same anymore.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay.
And that was the last time you were ever able to greet somebody as they walked off the plane.
Yes, that's true. That is very true. And so that was my day. And looking back, I'm like, why did they let us just... I mean, I know that the teachers were also going through this because this had never happened before. But in my mind, now after having been a teacher, I would have turned that TV off and I would have been like, we're going outside, or we're going to go play, like, we're going to go to the gym, or whatever it is. We're going to get out and we're not going to be...
Not as long as you're near a tall building.
Like... No. My middle school was not.
Oh, that's
so it's like one of those things where we were like, okay. And by then all the flights had been grounded and everything like that, which is great. But it was just like, like, why didn't they just turn off the TV and just like let us be kids for just like one more hour?
Yeah, it's a lot
you
more
know?
adult stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, we saw things that we shouldn't have seen, which I'm about to explain to you some of the things that we're seeing.
Hey.
All right, so September 11th, morning of September 11th, broker Ron DeFrancesco.
You want help there?
Oh my God.
What does it say?
I said it earlier and now I can't say it. DeFrancesco. There we go. Ron DeFrancesco is on the 84th floor of the South Tower of the World Trade Center. That's where his office is. He is sitting at his desk when at 8:46 a.m. a plane hits the North Tower. Ron and his coworkers rush to the windows and they see a lot of smoke and flames. And they just think that, a small passenger jet just must have accidentally hit the North Tower. Kind of like what you were saying, where there had been something that had happened like that before.
It was pretty well broadcast that a plane I think it was in Texas.
It was, I think it was Texas. And so they all just were like, all right, well, that's what it is then. Many, though, did start to evacuate, but then an announcement came over the intercom saying for everyone to keep calm, stay at their desk, and that the emergency is just in the other building. So basically continue to work. Like, that also just shows like the difference now between now and then, where now if something like that, if a building next to me had something like that happen, I would be like, no, I'm not working anymore. I'm going to go home. Bye. Like,
panic.
Yeah. Well, no, I wouldn't panic, but I'd like, cause you have to remember at that time, they didn't realize that what was going to happen soon. They just thought it was one.
Around me these days would probably start to walk as fast as I do.
Oh no, that's true actually. So nowadays, because now we're like we have had this trauma happen already. Yeah. We're like, yeah, of course we're gonna go. Back then, that wasn't the case. They literally told them, go back to work, sit back down. It's in the other tower. It's not our emergency. It's that emergency.
Yet.
And I would have been of the many already evacuating, being like, I'm gone. I'm gone.
I gotta go to the bathroom.
No, I'm going home.
Yeah.
I'm going home. I'm sorry if I'm working somewhere and the building next door is on fire because a plane hit it, I'm leaving.
There's a difference between a plane hitting a building and a jetliner.
Oh no, this is true. And
the Cessna
they didn't
was a
realize
plane.
They didn't realize that it was like as big of a plane that it was. They thought it was a smaller one.
Yeah.
Yes. So they're continuing to work. Ron calls his wife to let her know that he's okay and to not panic. Ron stays at his desk and he's getting calls from friends, and one of his friends calls from like Canada, and Canada is showing this, and they are already saying that it's iffy. And so his friend pleads with Ron to get out as soon as possible. So he finally listens and he decides to go to the elevator banks with one of his coworkers named Mike. At 9:03 a.m., they hear a very loud roar and they feel the building sway.
Ooh.
The second plane has just hit between the 77th building, the 77th floor, and the 85th floor. Oof. Right where Ron's desk was.
Woo, boy. It is that there's a very limited number of people that probably understand this experience, but to feel the floor in a tower ripple out from underneath you like it's a rug and throw you around is a feeling that you will never forget if you ever experience it. It is amazing. And the fact that this is credit to the engineers that make these buildings, the fact that the thing doesn't just fall apart is amazing. Like, the structural engineering is fantastic.
Are you talking about the Nisqually earthquake?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, inevitably, when you feel something that large sway and move.
But that's what they're engineered to do. They're engineered to sway and move in that.
They totally are, yeah. And they're oh, right. God, more. Sorry. So next time, just tell me to open my mouth, and then you can shove it in. Jesus. They said last time I wasn't talking loud enough and that I need to like choke on this microphone in order to actually make my point. So, yeah, that's right.
Just suck that microphone.
Anyway, but yeah, it's
crazy.
Good job to the engineers. Holy cow.
So of that part though, Ron later says, quote, "It's starboard wing." Starboard. Oh my God.
Were we on a boat now?
It's starboard wing cut right through our trading room.
Oh,
I think many of my associates died on impact. End quote. So Ron started going down the stairwell, and only to have a stream of people heading back up the stair to the roof, because they said that the way was impassable down the stairs and that they hoped for rescue on the roof. Well, I know. They didn't know. But so Ron and his coworker, Brian Clark, heard someone cry out from down the stairs. And so they decided to run down to help him instead of running up with the masses that went up to the roof. They found a man that was stuck under debris on the 81st floor.
Ugh.
After a while, Ron started to become overwhelmed with smoke. So he leaves Brian and the man to go down, hopefully, where there's no more smoke. He goes several flights, and it's not getting better. The smoke is getting worse and worse. And he tries the re-entry doors. So there's doors in the stairwell to get back in.
Back into the floors.
Well, those were locked because of a malfunction.
Whoops.
So whatever, some sort of malfunction happened. So people ended up just locked in the stairwells. So they couldn't even get out if they wanted.
And smoke is getting worse as you're going down?
And the smoke is getting worse.
Oh, God. You don't want to go up.
So he's stuck in the stairwell with tons of smoke, and it's making it so other people are starting to just lie down in the stairwell. So he lies down too, and he starts to think of his wife and 4 kids. And that's when a man says, quote, "Get up, Ron. You can do this," end quote. He says now, quote, "Here's what I know. If I ever hear a voice that clear, that calm, and that forceful telling me to get up, I'll do it," end quote. So Ron and the man start running downstairs. They push through some drywall, and they push it down to make it so they can use it as a slide over a gap in the stairwell. So there's a gap in the stairwell, and they use the drywall as a slide to get the next landing.
Dude is fucking
then
thinking.
There's a huge fire in the stairwell, and everything's on fire.
Coming up or from above, or what's going on?
In the stairwell where he's at.
Yeah. Wow.
It is all on fire, which is probably where the smoke is coming from.
Yeah, right.
The man with Ron says we have to run through the flames, so he runs through the flames, 3 flights of stairs.
Holy shit.
That are on fire.
Wow.
He says, quote, "I ran through a couple more flights of stairs that were on fire, but now I had no sense of pain. I was just moving," end quote. So around the 67th floor, the stairwell becomes clear.
Gee, he's cruising.
Yeah, he's cruising. And it is well lit now. And the fire is now above him, and he just keeps going down. But in his run, he had lost track of his companion.
Uh-oh.
Ron keeps moving floor by floor and runs into 3 firefighters going the opposite direction.
So those dudes made it up 60-something floors. Holy cow.
Yeah. They tell him to keep going down. 54 minutes after the plane hit, Ron came out of the South Tower into the courtyard.
Wow.
He is then directed to go through a safer exit in the basement toward Church Street, where he meets his friend John. 56 minutes after the plane hit the tower, it starts to collapse.
Oh.
There's an ungodly roar as the upper floors begin to collapse. Ron and John start to run towards the exit, and as a huge fireball comes at them. The fireball blasts them forward, and Ron hits his head hard, losing consciousness, and wakes up 3 days later in the hospital with 60% of his body burned.
Oh, my God. Wow. You made it all the way to the bottom and still got screwed. Jesus.
I mean, he survived.
He made it. Yeah, I mean,
he made it.
Yeah, I mean, he made it. He's still alive. But, man, to still get that
Well, he
tore
ran
up.
through fire, though.
Oh,
He ran through
so
the
that was
fires
the
too.
factor.
I mean, it could have been.
Well, I was
yeah.
gonna say, like, I wonder what the
He woke
impact
up
was.
with, so he didn't just have 60% of his body burned. His back was broken, and he had a very large lesion in his head from the fireball.
Wow!
Yeah.
Holy cow!
So the reason why Ron was directed to a different exit, and this is really horrible, is because there were bodies of people in the front who had jumped.
Oof.
And so they didn't want them to be stepped on.
Yeah, that's some last second decisions. Like, people were just jumping out of windows.
And they didn't want others to get hit.
Yeah.
But again, as I said, I was in 7th grade, and all we did all day at school was watch it. And I saw live people jumping.
Die. Yeah. God.
I saw live on TV at 12 years old.
Oof.
People jumping. Like, again, if I was a teacher and I saw that, I would be freaked out. I would turn off the TV and I'd be like, all right, today we're watching Shrek. Like, I don't know what I would put on something cute and funny.
I don't know that 12-year-olds need to see that.
Yeah, 12-year-olds absolutely do not need to see that at all. But again, they didn't realize that this is what was happening, and they were also, my teacher, again, I try to give the benefit of the doubt to my teachers. They were also in shock. This was not something that normally would happen. Now we know bad things like this happen, so hopefully, and as a teacher, I was definitely more prepared to deal with this kind of stuff. I would have been like, I can watch a video of this later. I'll just be on my phone. Like, there were multiple times where there was stuff that happened in the neighborhood where I was working, and we were on lockdown, or we were in whatever it was, and we were just on our phones, but the kids had literal no idea that anything was going on.
That seems like good management.
Yeah. So do that next time, middle school teachers.
Let's not automatically give PTSD to all of these children.
Yes.
Like,
yes. So Ron is thought to have been the last person to escape the South Tower.
Wow.
In fact, only 4 people survived that were above the 81st floor. Ron, his friend Brian Clark, and the man that they stopped to help out of the debris was among the 4.
Oh, he made it.
Yeah, so his friend Brian Clark and the man that they stopped to help, which also just shows that, sometimes in these bad situations, helping someone is actually a good thing to do.
Yeah, I think in certain situations like that, you kind of drop all of your thoughts and naturally do the thing that needs to be done. That seems
one of the things that happened after 9/11 was pretty sure it was Mr. Rogers. When it was happening, someone asked him, what do I tell my child when these kind of things happen? And he said, look for the helpers. Look for the people that are running in to help. So Ron and Brian Clark were helpers, and they saved another man's life in doing that. Now, I'm sure you're wondering what happened to the man that was running with him through fire and told him to get up because he could do it. Well, Ron realizes now that man was never actually there and that he was experiencing the third man factor.
Crazy. That's nuts.
Yeah. He is a devout Catholic, so he says it was his guardian angel, which is awesome and great. And he actually does speaking now about it. He didn't used to because he felt that it would diminish the memories of other people. Like, he had a lot of survivor's guilt, so he felt it would diminish the memories of those who passed away, him telling his story of him surviving. But he has now started to tell his story about surviving.
Interesting.
Yeah. Survivor's guilt is real, and as someone who's experienced it, it is it's not fun.
Yeah, it's interesting. I would think that survivor's guilt only appears when there are many people involved, right?
Yeah, there are many people, but you have to remember
in an instance, an incident.
Yeah, so he is a survivor of
an entire building of
2,000 people
Yeah,
dying,
yeah.
you know?
But I mean, like, if you get thrown, if you get kidnapped and have your arms chopped off and thrown over a guardrail, like, that's a survival. They're not going to have that same type of thing in that type of instance, right? Like, it's.
Well, I mean, no. That's not what survivor's guilt is. More of like you survived and other people died.
Oh, I did not.
So that's what survivor's guilt is.
Okay, I was going to say because like surviving as a solo person in a single instance.
No.
Totally
Survivor's guilt is So survivor's guilt is when other people have experienced the same thing as well, and then you feel guilty because of surviving. So, for instance, like some of the only survivors of serial killers have it where they're like, I almost died, but I didn't die.
And
why didn't he kill me, but he killed everyone else? That kind of stuff. Yeah. So it's like a whole, it's a whole thing, and it's awful. But so I'm glad that he's talking about it now. But yeah, so that's the story of Ron. And now my last story is a third man factor. And this is the one with the cave diving. Ugh. Okay, so
yes, hello.
Yes, hello. Yes, hello. We've been doing a lot of spooky lakes months. And she talks a lot about diving accidents, and it's awful and terrible.
For the record, this is Geodosaurus on Instagram.
On Instagram, she's
Spooky
awesome.
Lake Month.
She's
Yes,
great. And also, she made a book called Spooky Lakes.
Yes,
and it's really good.
It's pretty awesome.
But yeah, this is also why I wanted to tell this story, because then I read this book and I was like, oh my God, I hate everything. But also because I could have been this person. Because so this is Stephanie Schwab, who was a geomicrobiologist, which I almost I was thinking about doing geobiology.
Wait, tell them your.
Oh, so I did geology in college, and I almost became either a volcanologist or a geobiologist, or I was also thinking of oceanic geography, geology. Oh my God.
It's so fucking awesome to drive with her through like landscapes, and you can ask questions, and she just pulls all the information out of her brain and is like,
well, I did do a geology of the Northwest and a geology of the national parks class.
It's fantastic.
It's
traveling with her.
It's super fun. But had I become a geomicrobiologist or an oceanic geologist, I might have had to do this. So she is a scuba diver, and in August of 1997, she is preparing for a dive in the Mermaid's Lair. And the Mermaid's Lair is from the top, it just looks like a mangrove swamp, and then you go in, and underneath it's a cavern full of winding tunnels and everything. But within it, it's called a cathedral or a blue hole, where it opens up into a very large cavern. At the bottom of that, she is going to try to get samples of the sand, because the hypothesis at the time was that part of the ocean was actually above ground. So they're trying to get the sand to see if has blown from the Sahara Desert.
Aha.
So she's doing this. And now cave diving is quite dangerous, like extremely dangerous. Even people who have been doing it their entire careers or lives die doing it, including Stephanie Schwab's husband, who had 3 weeks before died during a diving accident in the Red Sea. So her husband died 3 weeks before this. However, I mean, you might say, why would you then go do this? Stephanie says that this was a place Rob and I spent a lot of time in, and it only was 3 weeks after Rob's death. I was emotionally stretched at that point, but despite that, she decided to go along with the dive anyways. And she said, quote, "If I didn't do it then, I would never do it again." End quote. So she jumps in, because again, she's been here multiple times. So it's not like a crazy place that she's never been. However, she had never done this dive alone. Whereas today she was doing it alone. She normally did it with her husband.
Uh-huh.
So she winds herself through the small tunnels in complete darkness until it's open to a large cathedral. She goes to the cave bottom to collect sand. However, she realizes that she cannot find her guideline.
Oh.
So during that time, Rob is usually in charge of the guidelines. And while she would collect samples, so he would hold the guideline. I mean, same thing, right? Guideline. And she would then go and do the sampling that she needed to do. Now, she's doing all the samples. She's collecting all the samples. And she just kind of went on autopilot. And she completely forgot that her husband, Rob, wasn't there.
Oh, shit.
And she unhooked her guideline. Then she started to look around and she couldn't find the guideline. It had disappeared. Now, this is when I would absolutely panic and then probably die. I mean, actually, I would have panicked just going through the small tunnel.
Yeah,
honestly,
right?
I'd be like, nope, 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 nope. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. That is like my worst fucking nightmare, and so I cannot. And obviously, your worst fucking nightmare, like,
trust me.
oh God, like I don't understand this. This is not my thing. Again, this is why I was like no oceanic geology, anything, because
Won't catch me in there.
I'm gonna have to be scuba diving in some small spots that I don't want to fucking be. That's why I dropped out of college. No, it's not. Just kidding.
You've got better reasons than that.
I know. But instead of panicking, Stephanie became angry. Super angry. She was so angry, not only at herself for making this mistake of letting go of her guideline, but also at Rob for dying 3 weeks earlier.
You son of a bitch! How dare you die? Yeah. Now I don't know where my line is.
She said, "quote, my anger is what got me out." End quote. But as she started getting angrier, she was using more oxygen, and she realized that she only had 5 minutes left.
That's the thing they tell you is don't panic because it uses up more oxygen.
Yes. So then she starts to panic. However, she starts to think about her husband because remember, she's angry at her husband. She's like, "How dare you leave me?" She starts thinking about her husband, and then her surroundings become brighter and more vivid. And she starts to have a sense of calm. And then she hears Rob's voice saying what he always did to her. Quote, "Believe you can, believe you can't. Either way, you're right." End quote. And with her brightened senses, she was able to find the line and get out just as her air ran out.
Ooh, boy.
Yeah. I know.
Cutting it a little too close.
Yes. Even after this disaster, she continued to dive and eventually discovered a purple sulfur bacteria that she named after her husband, which I can't say the name, but it's like Palmeri.
Ooh, I want to try.
Oh, no,
you didn't
I
even,
spelled
you didn't
it wrong.
I see.
But she also made the Rob Palmer Black Hole Foundation, which is a scientific organization to promote the study of physical exploration of the blue holes in the Bahamas. She is still diving today.
Interesting.
And still discovering things. However, this is her quote. 50-50 shot every time I do this. I die. Every time I go in, I'm afraid. Only fools are not afraid. When asked why she continues, she says, "It's the desire to want to go and make discoveries that no one else has seen before. It's a lure of unknown, and in the process, I explore parts of myself that most people don't."
Well, they say if it excites you and scares you, you should probably do it.
Probably. But yeah, those are some stories of the third man factor. Thank you all for joining us, and I Hope I traumatized you as much as I got traumatized as well. Have a great night. Bye.